إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. أما بعد, this is the first session of Tafseer, inshallah ta'ala, and the Tafseer of the Quran, or the explanation of the Quran, is something that is not an optional thing for a Muslim. This is something that should be an obligation that every Muslim should take upon oneself to understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran. The Quran was revealed not for people to seek some physical blessings from it, and it is blessed because it's the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the Quran was revealed, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته وليتذكر أولو الألباب. That this is a blessed book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought it down. أنزلناه كتاب مبارك أنزلناه ليدبروا آياته, for them to ponder over its verses. This is the purpose of it, for people to ponder and to look into these verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to understand it with the intention is to act according to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the tafsir of the Quran needs patience, because this is not something that a person would get in one session and that's the end of it. It's a life-changing process, and that's why it's one ayah after another. And our life will change every time we get to know one ayah of the Quran. Our life has to change according to this ayah of the Quran. And this is how we upbring ourselves. This is the proper tarbiyah, but the upbringing of oneself, and this is how the iman gets into the heart and increases. Whoever thinks that the deen of Islam is something that a person can get it in a shot or by hitting a switch, and that's it, and that will be enough for the person till the rest of his life, it doesn't work this way. We need the constant work and the constant knowledge and the constant reminder. And we have the best example in the life of the Prophet ﷺ through the companions of Allah. And if we can get this intention from this gathering, this is such a great thing. Abdurrahman al-Sulami, one of the second generation after the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, he said that we took the Quran from, of course, the Sahaba, 10 verses at a time. 10 ayat. And this is the saying to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, that they would take 10 ayat, 10 verses of the Quran. They would recite them. They would learn the rulings of them and understand them very well, and they would act according to them, and then they would go to the next 10 verses, and so on. So as he said, فَتَعَلَّمْنَا الْعِلْمَ وَالْعَمَلَ جَمِيعًا. They learned knowledge and actions together. There was no separation in their life between knowledge and actions. And this is what we need to take upon ourselves. And it's a waste of one's life when we do not get to know the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran, the miraculous words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke the Quran, and nothing is the like of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He's the all-hearer, the all-seer. And if we believe in this attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke the Quran, then the effect of that in our life is that we will definitely make and take all the means to learn the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if we have to travel for far distances to get to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, because this is what basically the Quran is. So inshallah, this is an introduction to get us to understand the importance of this, that even if a session like this is stopped after some time, our life and our attitude towards the Quran should never stop. This is a process that we should start, and the intention is that we do it regularly till we finish the whole entire Quran, knowledge and actions together. But to come for a lecture once in a while like this that talks about the Quran and that's it, the benefit, mashallah, is there, but this is not the real benefit that we seek. So this is a regular session, a regular thing in our life till we finish the whole entire Quran, inshallah ta'ala, the same way people finish memorizing the Quran, reciting the Quran, also understanding the Quran, and of course acting according to the Quran. As the Prophet ﷺ also said in the authentic hadith when he came out to the companions radiallahu anhum, and he told them, Abshiru, have the glad tidings. Right? Just like that, without any introductions. He told them, have the good news, the glad tidings. And then he told them, alayhi salatu wassalam, فَإِنَّ الْقُرْآنَ طَرَفُهُ بِأَيْدِيكُمْ وَطَرَفُهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مَنْ تَمَسَّكَ بِهِ فَلَنْ يَضِلَّ بَعْدَهُ أَبَدًا. What was the good news to them? For those who the iman was in their hearts strong and understood this dunya, this life versus the hereafter. He said, the good news is that the Quran has two ends. One end is with you, and the other end is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he said, whoever hold fast to it, he would never be led astray after it, because the person is connected. It's two ends. One end is with you, and one end is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever hold fast to it, and this is the job of the believers. Whoever hold fast to the Quran, he will never be deviated. Those who are deviated, those who the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is severed. There's no relationship. So how to have this relationship, which is the relationship of al-ubudiyyah? We have no other relationship but the ubudiyyah. To be servants and slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is through the Quran. And when we say the Quran, with it, without even have to say that, is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Because if you start by saying, I would study the Quran, then you would get into verses in the Quran that would refer you to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Would order you to obey Allah and His Messenger ﷺ, to follow what has been revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, so they are never separated from one another. They're never separated, meaning the Quran and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, never separated, ever. Of course there is differences, but when we talk about our obedience, our submission, our understanding, we have to work on both the Quran and the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is good news to all of us. But then, are we holding fast to the Quran? We can say nice words about it. Yeah, we're holding fast to the Quran, we follow the Quran, but where is that practically? Or we just hear one word here or there. When the Quran is so many copies of it, mashallah ta'ala. We need to do that, and we need to be truthful with ourselves, that we really follow in the Quran. وَالْهَذِي سَبِيلِ أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. The Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ, this is my way. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, I call to Allah عَلى بَصِيرَةٍ, clear vision. Not just in some ambiguous or general terms, but we do it physically, literally, one verse after another, as the Sahaba radiallahu anhum did. And we come with the intention that we want to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, so that we will apply. Because we are supposed to be humble people. We're not arrogant. We do not know what is good for us. That's why when a Muslim opens the Quran, this is the attitude. That we do not know anything. We want to know so that we will apply what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And then how would a Muslim, and how many times we will say, I believe this, I think this, I would say that this is the right way or this is the wrong way. Where did we get this from? If it's not from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So again and again, human beings, they have no capacity to know what is right and what is wrong, unless they refer back to the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this again should be our intentions. And we seek the means and we seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the people of the Quran. The deen, as the Prophet ﷺ said, deen nasiha. The deen is a nasiha. And nasiha is not advice, it's something else. And nasiha means ihtimam al-nasih or qalb al-nasih al-mansuh ila, which means the concern of your heart towards the subject of the nasiha. You're concerned, you're occupied with it. And that's why when they asked the Prophet ﷺ, to who, O Prophet of Allah, the nasiha should be, the Prophet ﷺ said, to Allah and His Messenger and His books and the Immat al-Muslimin wa Ammati, and the leaders of the Muslims and the masses of the Muslims. That means your heart has to have that concern towards these things. To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're constantly concerned. not in a negative way, meaning that we are constantly busy in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Constantly seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Never ever be in the state of forgetfulness. To the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to follow the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, of course to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to worship Him alone and to believe in Him and so on. And the concern would means that the Muslim would get to learn, would get to know what to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how to follow the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, concerned about this. And to the Book of Allah, which is why I mentioned the hadith, do we have that concern to the Book of Allah? Meaning that the Book of Allah is occupying most of our time thinking, pondering, memorizing, reciting, acting. Because even when you go to work in the morning, or when you go to the masjid, or when you're at home, or in any form of a relationship, what governs all of this is the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So how can you eat and sleep and go to work and make salah and belief and all of these things without the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? So the concern towards the Quran is that we would every day recite the Quran. And again, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the tawfiq and the help to come and to study the Quran, then we need to understand that this is basically the person has been chosen. Person has been chosen to come and to understand and to spend the time to recite the Quran and ponder over the Quran. As a result of this, we need to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by having this concern towards the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make sure that we would act according to the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Maryam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose her, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَاكِ وَطَهَّرَكِ وَاصْطَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ يَا مَرْيَمُ اقْنُتِي لِرَبِّكِ وَاسْجُدِي وَارْكَعِي مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose her over all the women of the Alameen. Then as a result of that, what to do? يَا مَرْيَمُ اقْنُتِي. Uqnuti meaning, it means with the standing in the salah. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Add to your Lord, to your Rabb. And make ruku', make sujood. This is the outcome of being chosen. If a person is helped and guided to do a good deed, to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to show that in matters of ibadah, matters of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's definitely clear, done with the Quran. So, before we start anything, what is it so difficult for us to, every day, we have a portion of the Quran that we recite. Right? This is basically, if we meet once a week, but this is the job to be done till next time we meet with regarding to the Tafseer of the Quran. Otherwise, we would not get the perfect benefit from the Quran. Every day we have to recite something. If people are busy, 5 minutes won't take too much. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, according to whatever a person has time. After Fajr Salah, after Isha Salah, before going to sleep, anything. But it's a job that should never ever be missed. That we will recite something of the Quran. And we start and we finish. Right? Every day something. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and of course, this is the perfect state. And we look up into this, of course, and it doesn't have to be that we start on that level, but it's something that makes us, or would make us always seek the best and keep on working on ourselves. The famous khatma, or the famous recitation of the whole Quran to the Sahaba, was in 7 days, a week. This is the famous one. Some of them would finish the Quran in more than this, and some in less than this. But most of them, it was well known among them that they would finish reciting the Quran once every week. And Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, in his book Tibyan fi Bayan Adab Hamalat al-Quran, that talked about the manners of those who would carry the Quran, meaning in their hearts and memorize it and so on. He mentioned in it that the most opinion when it comes to time to finish the Quran, that after that you're putting yourself in some danger way, is 2 months. Some said it's 1 month. If you finish the Quran more than 1 month, this is not good for you. So, but some said 2 months. That means every day have a juz, right? For a person who doesn't know how to recite the Quran in a perfect way, this can take time till he reaches this level. But for those who recite the Quran in a good way, that doesn't take much of their time. To recite the Quran 1 juz a day, have a juz, even if it's 1 page, even if it's 1 line, even if it's 1 ayah, right? And أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها. The most beloved deeds for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ones that are done in a consistent manner, even if it's small. So we should not start by something big and then we will not be able to be consistent in doing something small, but we are consistently doing it. The 7 days, how the Sahaba they will finish the Quran, they will do it either in 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and then to the rest of the Quran. The first 3 surahs. Next day, the next 5, and then 7, and then 9 surahs, and then 11 surah, and then 13 surah. That will take you to Surah Qaf. And the last day from Surah Qaf to the end. This should be our goal. We can reach this after a year, after 2 years, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us life. But we start from now, this habit that is every day we recite something of the Quran until we perfect our recitation of the Quran. And that's why, inshallah ta'ala, Sunday after Fajr we'll have a session of recitation. To recite the Quran in the proper way, the way it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. And those who struggle with the recitation of the Quran, they have the great news that they have double of the reward, as the Prophet ﷺ said. But the highest level is for the person to be mahir bil Quran, to recite the Quran in a perfect way. Al-mahir bil Quran ma'a as-safarati al-kiram al-barara. Al-mahir means the one that recites the Quran perfectly. He is with the scribers, the angels. This is the level of such a person, right? But then, the one, for us to reach this level, we have to struggle. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ, right after that, he would say, وَالَّذِي يَقْرَأَ الْقُرْآنَ هُوَ عَلَيْهِ شَاقٌ وَهُوَ يَتَتَعْتَعُ فِيهِ لَهُ أَجْرًا. And the one that recites the Quran, and it's difficult for him, وَيَتَتَعْتَعْ meaning that you would spell the letters, that the letters are not coming out frequently like this. This person will get 2 rewards. Right? This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. They say 1 reward for recitation and 1 reward for the effort that you put. So a person wants to be a doctor, for example, to make a lot of money. While he is studying, people take loans. Sometimes it's haram loans to do this, right? But for someone to reach a level like that in the religion of Islam, you get rewards. Even you are still in the path of reaching this level of perfection in matters of the Quran, recitation of the Quran. So this is a duty, this is a job. This is an act of worship. It has to be done. And with it, we should also try to memorize the Quran. It's not just for the students in the school. And we as parents, we just put the students in the school to memorize the Quran, and we think this is our job, and that's it. We're old, we cannot do it. Where is in the Quran that says it's only for the young people to memorize the Quran? Or the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says your children only, or something like this. There's no such a thing. It's all Muslims. And the hadith addresses the Muslims. And the Muslim, the person will come and he had memorized the Quran. يقال لقارئ القرآن. It will be said to the reciter of the Quran, the one that memorized the Quran, it will be said to him or her in the day of judgment, اقرأ وارتقي ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا. That recite and rattil with the proper recitation, with the tone that you used to recite the Quran with, the same way that you used to recite in the dunya, in this world, because your level in Jannah, فَإِنَّ مَنْزِلَتَكَ عِنْدَ آخِرِ آيَةٍ تَقْرَأُ. Your level is by the last verse that you recite. And that's why some of the ulama, they said, how many levels in Jannah? It's the numbers of the verses of the Quran, because if it's each verse a level in Jannah, this is how many levels? Thousands of levels. So one ayah is a level in Jannah. So why also waste our life without elevating ourselves in this life? How much does it take to memorize a verse from Juz' Amma? We're not going to talk about Ayatul Dayn, the longest ayah in the Quran, which is a whole page, right? No, it starts with Juz' Amma. How many time does it take to memorize? You say Amma yatasa'alun. You say it 5 times, 10 times, it's memorized. Alhamdulillah, 1 verse. And then you go to the next verse, and to the next verse. The point is the consistency. So again, those who are attending now, both men and women, why can't we, all of us, start memorizing the Quran? What is preventing us? I don't think there is anything valid. If it's being busy, one verse at a time. It doesn't take much from you. If you think that you are old in age, it's difficult for you to memorize, this is something that is not true with the Quran. It can be true with anything else. But with the Quran, no. Plus, if it's difficult, so what? Why? Because every time you recite the ayah to memorize it, you say it 100 times. When you recite it, that means every letter you get the rewards of 10 hasanat, as we know from the authentic hadith. So you are basically getting the rewards of recitation even if the memorization doesn't happen. But working on the memorization, it's also another job. Definitely it's an optional thing, but why not? Right? Why not can't we do this? A small portion, one line, half a line, one verse, anything. Also if it's done consistently. So if you have 15 minutes of recitation every day, 15 minutes that you work on memorization of the Quran. With memorization, of course, we have to have someone that would listen to our memorization so that we don't make mistakes. And whatever means there is easy for us to do that, we should. Or even you can listen to it on the computer or something like that. But this is another job, to memorize the Quran. So we have the recitation, we have the memorization, and we have a session of Tafseer. So you come to the session of the Tafseer to get to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. This is a job. This is something that we will take upon ourselves again to act like the companions of Allah anhum did with the book of Allah. With the intention that we would believe and we would act according to the Quran. Acting according to the Quran, which is the fruit of the sessions of Tafseer, you might not find in most of the verses of the Quran physical actions to be done. Doesn't mean that after you finish the session of Tafseer you will do something physically. Not necessarily. Most of these deeds, most of the things that is in the verses of the Quran, it's something to deal with our hearts, and it will affect the simple actions that we do that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to do. Because the orders, the obligations from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not much. Salah, for example, right? Our salah should be affected by understanding the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, of course, anything that we do in our life, even sleeping, eating, drinking, and so on. But a common benefit, and this is a very important point, a common benefit that if we don't get it every time you learn a verse in the Quran, that means we are missing something great. We can say that this is a benefit in every verse we recite. So when, for example, we take a few verses to explain them. And after explaining the verses and why they were revealed and the meanings and so on and so forth, and at the end we talk about the benefits. What do we learn from these verses? And this is how, inshallah, these sessions should be. So at the end we talk about the benefits. What can that affect our lives and how can we act according to the verses that we learned? The first benefit or the common benefit that always have to be repeated is that it makes you more humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you already now listen to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you, a human being, with all the deficiencies that we have, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with these deficiencies so that we would perfect our humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to feel in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the more the person ponder over the verses of the Quran, we will see that because most of the verses of the Quran ends with some of the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Aziz, He is Al-Hakim, He is ala kulli shay'in qadir, and then you reflect upon yourself and you don't have these attributes in you. You are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get izzah, to get honor and dignity. You are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get wisdom because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakim. You are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to even get a breath in and out. So this is a very important benefit that we immediately should we get every time we recite anything in the Quran. And this is the essence and this is the core of Ubudiyyah, which is the purpose of our life. The core of Ubudiyyah is al-iftiqaru ila Allah azza wa jalla. لب العبودية كما يقال. The core of to be a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of one's affairs. Is to put our trust and to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything. And that's something that we would get the more we would ponder over the verses of the Quran, every verse of the Quran. Even the verses that talks about talaq and you don't have any situation of divorce, or verses that talk about the menses or rulings or this or that, it should have this effect in our hearts, because again it's the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should, inshallah ta'ala, try our best to do this and to help one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to achieve these duties, which is very easy and simple. Recitation of the Quran, working on our recitations, memorization of the Quran, and acting according to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with it also comes the seeking cure from the Quran. We have diseases in our hearts and physical diseases, and the Quran is a cure for all of these diseases. First and foremost are the diseases in the heart. We have things in our hearts, and whoever thinks that his heart is clean and pure, he's praising himself, and we should not praise ourselves, right? We should accuse ourselves, right? And if a person didn't work on cleaning one heart, then the heart is not clean. If you never done some cleaning to your heart, then the first status that a person is in, that he has not a clean heart. His heart is not clean unless he done something to clean it. And if it's not clean by the Quran, that means it's not clean. It's full of all forms of impurities, attachment to this world, envy, arrogance, right? And again, we talked many times about arrogance, because arrogance is not something that you would feel it. It's not only for those who look down at people. It's not only for those who are rulers and kings and have wealth and they ridicule others. This is forms of arrogance. But there are many different forms of arrogance, and it can come down all the way to be the weight of a mustard seed in the heart that you don't feel it. You would never feel an atom weight of arrogance in your heart. And that's why when Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, he heard this from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As when they were on the mount of As-Safa during Hajj. He came and he sat next to him and he told them hadith, and he left. He said something to him and he left. And Abdullah ibn Umar started weeping and crying. So the narrator of the hadith, he went to him and he said, what happened? I saw Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As came to you, sat with you for a little bit, and then he left, and he started weeping and crying. So he said, he told me that the Prophet ﷺ said, من كان في قلبه مثقال حبة من خردل من كبر كبه الله على وجهه في نار جهنم. He said to him, he told me that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever has in his heart the weight of a mustard seed or an atom of kibr, of arrogance in his heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him fall into his face in the hellfire. So he cried, Abdullah ibn Umar, and he was not crying to show off. Why? Because this is, how can a person feel the weight of a mustard seed in the heart of kibr? Then how can we clean ourselves from this? The Quran. If we have that concern and the sincerity, because the Quran, when we hear it, when we recite it, when we memorize it, the proper way to act according to it, it enters the heart. And it pushes away, you know, you have a hose that is very strong, and you make it directly to some dirt. What happens to the dirt? Gets excited and moving, and then the more you get the water in, like if it's in a bucket, after 5 minutes you find the dirt is out, and what stays in the bucket is the pure water. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the laws physically on the face of earth. This is something mentioned in the Quran about the Quran. This is what the Quran does to the heart. أنزل من السماء ماء فسالت أودية بقدرها فاحتمل السيل زبدا رابيا ومما يوقدون عليه في النار ابتغاء حلية متاع أو زبد مثله فأما الزبد فيذهب جفاء وأما ما ينفع الناس فيمكث في الأرض كذلك يضرب الله للناس الأمثال استجيبوا لربكم وهكذا. The ayah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought down water from the skies. And in explanation of the verse, this is what the Quran does to the heart. So as a result of the constant rain, that's why the job of the Quran to us, it's not once a year. It's not once a week. It's the constant attention and the constant concern and the constant recitation, memorization, understanding. So the constant pouring of the water, فَسَالَتْ أَوْدِيَةٌ بِقَدَرِهَا. So fields would flood as a result of the water coming down. So what happens to the flood? The dirt comes up, floats. As a result of the flood, the dirt comes out from the flood. فأما الزبد فيذهب جفاء. The zabad with the dirt goes away, and what benefits the people stay in the earth. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ وَالْبَاطِلِ. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the haqq, the truth, hit the falsehood. Like this. You keep on reciting the Quran, which is the truth. You keep on reciting the truth, pondering over it, hitting your heart with the truth constantly, then this truth will hit the batil, will hit the doubts, will hit all the matters of impurities till it pushes it out. And the more we do that with the Quran, the more we will clean our hearts. The less we do that, the more the batil or the falsehood will stay in our hearts. So if someone would say, but I know many people memorize the whole Quran, recite the Quran every day, but there's still batil and there's still all kinds of falsehood in them. They are not taking the Quran seriously, it's only lip service, right? Because you can recite the Quran with your lips, but it does not enter your heart. Then the truth will be only by the lips. We need to have the truth to enter the heart. And that only comes with pondering, with understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And having this truthfulness that we will apply this. The truthfulness that even if it's in the Quran something that will make you lose your wealth, you are willing from the beginning that you will submit yourself. You have no conditions whatsoever to the submission of Allah. Because you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Razzaq. He's the provider subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He's the most merciful. You have more mercy towards you than you towards your own self. You're so worried about your being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala care about you more than you care for your own self. So if we start with the Quran, with the attitude that I'll see if it comes onto what I think, this is the arrogance. You don't have to say that with your own tongue, but we can say that with our actions. Right? If we think that we know better for our life, and what's good and better for our children, even if the Quran says otherwise, this is all arrogance. And this is where the truth would never benefit and would never clean this falsehood that is present in the heart. This is what the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they excelled over any generation that comes after them. Not by the many good deeds physically that they did, it's because of something that was in their hearts. It's total submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what the Quran does to our hearts. So it's a cure to the diseases in the hearts, and it's a cure to physical diseases too. That's why there is ruqyah. We recite the Quran on ourselves and our children and our families and so on, because it's the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't have to wait for some scientific discoveries that shows that when a person is reciting the Quran on something, on a part of his body, the molecules and the water particles in his body will move differently, will act differently, which is true, but it doesn't matter to us. We already know that by matters of faith, with the matters of al-Iman, that the Quran is shifa. وَنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the Quran, all the Quran, shifa, pure and mercy to the believers. So after knowing all of these things, then our life has to be totally different. And that's why the session of the Tafseer, or getting to understand the Quran, has to change our life. Our life has to change. In our homes, and anywhere we go, this is something that the thing that drives us and moves us and makes us sit and stand and eat and go to school and do everything is the words of Allah, the Quran, and the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So we can, inshallah ta'ala, the issue of the 10 verses, this is something that has been applied before many times, but it doesn't mean 10 verses from 1 to 10 and from 10 to 20. What it means, this is just some example of numbers, meaning they would take the Quran with context. Few verses that has the same context basically, to the best of their ability, they would study them and work on them and ponder over them and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, and they would act. And then they would go to the next and so on. So we can try to do that, but because of the 2-3 weeks or so, we can just take something, inshallah, next time to ponder over and to study. And then after that, again, the process takes a long time. Umar radiallahu anhu, he memorized Surah Al-Baqarah, as it was said, in 8 years. Right? We have, mashallah, Huffaz, we can memorize Surah Al-Baqarah in, I know someone that memorized all Surah Al-Baqarah in a couple of days. So it's feasible, right? But it was a different type of memorization. The memorization with actions, right? And the niyya ablagh min al-amal, meaning that if you start now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best when our life will end. Your intentions is to finish the Quran, right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take our souls before that, your intentions go beyond your actions. So why not die while being among those who are memorizing the Quran? So that it will be written, our deeds will come in the day of judgment. The moment of death, you are among those who are memorizing the Quran. Because the shaitan will come, start memorizing the Quran, or it will take 10 years, 20 years, who has this life, right? And then you would give up. And then 10 years passes and you didn't do nothing. Or 1 year passes and you didn't do anything. It's not about finishing the Quran. It's about the daily job, right? It's the daily ubudiyyah. It's the daily being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a daily basis. Shaitan makes us lose so much when he makes us live in a life that we do not know if we're going to live it or not. Right? And this is tul al-amal, right? That you have a long hope. It's good to have long hope in matters of ilm, knowledge of the deen. You can say, I finished the Quran in 10 years. There's nothing, this is not wrong with this because it's a matter of the deen, right? But even if you think that if you memorize every day one ayah, how many verses of the Quran in the Quran? 6,000 something, right? You will say, I will never finish that. Don't worry about this. You worry about the action of the day. But by the help of Allah, it gets finished. And I mentioned that many times, I probably mentioned that here before, that there was one brother, and many people do this. You would see them. And this brother, he retired. He was, after over 60 years old, easy. He was maybe 10 years after that. And we were talking about the virtues of memorizing the Quran and so on. And start with something. And the key to that is, again, honesty and truthfulness and sincerity. So he started doing this, right? And he started memorizing a verse, a line, whatever there is. And then I saw this brother after 6 months or a year. I don't remember exactly now the times. And he told me, remember that day and so on, I've been doing a line or less or something like that, and I have finished Surah Al-Baqarah. Right? He finished Surah Al-Baqarah, and I saw him less than a year ago, and this was like maybe 3 or 4 years now. He said he finished 10 juz already. Right? And he's working, mashallah. And he said it's a totally different life now that he's living. And it's not a line anymore. And he's an old brother, mashallah. And he got into this, he would say that I would not leave this for anything from my life. Now it's part of his life. Part of the joy of his life is to do that on a daily basis. So we don't have to wait till we retire. Inshallah, we can have the means to do that from now. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our deeds and to make us among the people of the Quran. And although there are more things to be mentioned in the introduction of the Tafseer, it's just an encouragement for myself and everyone. But the methodology of the Tafseer is very important because it's not according to what I think or what you think, and we discuss the Quran like this. It's as Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he mentioned that in his introduction, and that's why his Tafseer is so famous. And the ulama, the people of knowledge, they praise that Tafseer so much because he followed the methodology of Tafseer of the Quran, that we need to follow the same methodology in all of our entire life. And read the introduction of Ibn Kathir. He said, the Quran explains the Quran. So the first thing is, if the verse that you're discussing or studying has some resemblance, or it's more in details than other parts of the Quran, you would find that in the Tafseer. So the ulama would mention that this is similar to another verses. It talks about this, like stories of the Quran, or something mentioned general and it's more specific in another place, and so on. Like when the Prophet ﷺ said about in the shirk la dhulmun azim, that shirk is the clear dhulm, right? And that's what the real dhulm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, was mentioned in other terms, in other places as general terms. So then he said, then the Sunnah explains the Quran. So we find a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that explains the verses of the Quran, right? So this is the way that we explain the Quran, and there's a hadith related to it. And then you have the third thing is the sayings of the companions of the Allah. Ibn Abbas said this, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said that with regard to the tafsir of the Quran. And no one would know the Quran and the tafsir of it better than them, especially if the Prophet ﷺ made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Abdullah ibn Abbas, for him to comprehend the religion and for him to understand and comprehend the tafsir of the Quran. And the dua of the Prophet ﷺ is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you would take the sayings of Abdullah ibn Abbas and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. The fourth one is the sayings of the tabi'een, right? So because they took that from the companions of the Allah. And the fifth category of the way to understand the Quran and the tafsir of the Quran is the Arabic language. So as if this is basically what we follow in all of our life. Quran, Sunnah, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the Tabi'een, and of course the Arabic language, so that we understand the Wahy, understand the Quran, understand the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is inshallah the methodology, and this is the way that inshallah ta'ala, if Allah give us life, we should understand the Quran and study the Quran and memorize the verses of the Quran. So till next week, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us life, please inshallah we should do these things inshallah. جزاكم الله خيرا. وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وصحبه وسلم.